Hi, I'm Phil Malto, and welcome to another episode of Snowmobiler Television. Today, I've got the mountain gear on, I've got a mountain sled, and I'm in the mountains. We're doing backcountry riding here in Revelstoke, British Columbia.
STV is sponsored by Yamaha, revs your heart. Kimpex, fueled by fun. And by Skidoo, never stop pushing.
Revelstoke is probably one of the better places around BC to get to the snow and everything else. The mountain ranges and everything else are so much bigger here than everywhere else. I mean, the further you drive, the better terrain you're going to find, so it's always worth it. You can't beat it. Anyone who lives here and complains about it, I don't get, because once you actually get up into the mountains, into some pretty epic terrain, and you can get yourself into some pretty fun stuff. So.
For our backcountry riding here in British Columbia, Skidoo mountain sleds are provided by Great Canadian Snowmobile Tours, and they also provided excellent guides for our 4 days of riding.
I've never felt unsafe. They look after you, they watch you when you start riding, so they kind of get a feel for how good you are, you know, what your skill level is, and then they take you to places that you'll enjoy and be able to ride without getting in over your head.
I said to the guide last night, I thank you, because I got about 90% of the way up. And it's about 90% further than I would have tried if I hadn't been forced to. So, yeah, you really push your boundaries out here. The guides do a good job of, you know, not making you uncomfortable, but making sure that you're having a good time and maybe getting out of your comfort zone a little bit. But that's how you learn and that's how you get better. So.
The draw for a backcountry riding or mountain riding is definitely the freedom for myself. That's what it is. Bringing new people out every week, every weekend, and seeing the expressions, seeing the views alone. When it's a clear day, even when it's not a clear day, the snow is different, the trees are different, the whole landscape is different, but it's just a freedom feeling when you're out here and your work problems can go away for a little while.
I'm in awe. I can't describe how much every year they lead us into something that is better than last year. It's outstanding. Having ridden in trails for like 15 years, this is everything I'd ever dreamed of and wished we had this back home. I keep coming back. Look around, it's awesome. You don't have conditions like this at home. You can't do half the stuff at home on this sled that you can do on a sled here. It's just a completely different experience.
This year we brought a couple new guys along, and it's always fun to have everybody out here, obviously, and our group actually keeps growing, and I'm actually standing kind of at the back of Frisbee Ridge, so it was kind of nice this year because we got to get back to a place we'd never been before, and it's exciting as always. Beautiful kind of blue skies and awesome snow. Well, look around. I mean, you don't see this in Ontario. Ontario is a beautiful place, but BC is kind of my new second home, I think.
I love it. I think it's absolutely amazing. It's an opportunity for me. It's an opportunity for him. I love working with him, and I especially love riding out here. I like to think that this is also, my dad said before, this is also my second home, and I want to eventually move somewhere just like this because it's just so beautiful, and you can't describe it.
It's the first time. It's incredible. It's unbelievable. You just to see the mountains and the terrain that you encounter. It's nothing like we have at home. So it's just pretty spectacular. To go home now and ride the trails is going to be it'll still be fun, I'm sure. But I think I'll be getting right into the snowmobile, and it's quite an experience.
The scenery you can't beat. I mean, people from all over come right to BC just to see the scenery. I mean, you get up into these mountains and people from out east, the States, Norway, doesn't matter where they're coming from, they go back and that's all they talk about is the scenery. You get up here and you can see for miles. The mountain ranges are pretty unbeatable. It's pretty epic is really the only way to describe it. The best part is coming through a stack of trees and finding an opening or a nice little area that is all untouched snow. The sun's shining, you get yourself into a spot that at times you don't think you're going to make it through, and you pull through. It gets your heart going, adrenaline, everything else, and that's for sure the most exciting part about sledding.
You know, lots of different types of riding in the backcountry here. You know, I kind of sum it all up all together. For me as a rider, I go out riding, and whatever the conditions are that day is what we'll be doing. If it's a blizzard and you can't see anything, we'll be in the trees trying to do some tech riding through the trees. If it gets sunny, then we'll pop up into the alpine, and you know, all of a sudden there's a good jump. We'll hit the jump, move on to the next spot, do a downhill descent, then we'll hill climb up to like the next zone, and you know, it's just basically there isn't one set of riding. It's just all the same. You're just going whatever's around and is good at the time is what you do. So it's kind of, you got a lot of choices. It's pretty cool.
This sport in itself is a huge challenge, physically, mentally. I love it. There's nothing like a big blower day. Go out and just spend all day wiping the snow off your goggles, trying to get to a new zone, a new area. You know, I'm very much a type of rider where I'm like, what's over there? So I don't know, just every day is a new day. There's never been a single day in my 14 years of riding that's been the same.
One thing I think people miss out on is that this is a physical activity. We don't just sit and go. It is a physical activity. And I think it's very frustrating for us, you know, at the end of the day when you're finished riding, how much calories you've exerted and how tired you are. And I think there's a stigma around it that it's a motorized recreation and we're out to, you know, hurt the environment. We're not. We're fighting for these lands and to keep them open for everybody to ride. And that's my biggest passion, is to keep these lands open and everybody be educated, but know that this is pretty demanding physical activity as well. I'm beat at the end of the day.
It's challenging. Like anyone who comes from out east has never seen any of this terrain. It's technical, it's a workout. You don't see it from the outside looking in, but once you start riding around, getting yourself into a few different lines, not knowing what you're getting yourself into, it gets your adrenaline going and everything else, and that's probably the best part about sledding.
The riding is hard, I would say, very challenging for someone like myself who'd never ridden a snowmobile coming out last year. But this year I've really picked up on it, and it's more fun the more you get to practice and more you get to pick up on it.
Well, the first day I think I buried myself about 10 times, but today so far so good. I haven't got stuck yet, so it takes a little bit of getting used to. But once you get into it, it's pretty cool. It's pretty fun. You got to throw your body around, but it's interesting. But it's been a blast.
Our backcountry riding happens at the high peaks, but our accommodations and sleds are found at the mountain base. Glacier House Resort once again provided superb accommodations with rooms inside the main lodge, help relax those tired muscles after a long day of powder riding. The helicopter is not only the key player for making sure the camera crews are able to get access to the race route and remote communities, it is also the emergency response during daylight hours should a 911 emergency call be activated by one of the race teams. Such was the case for Wayne King of Team 69, who ran into some water and some slob trouble on his way to Postville. In typical Cain's sportsmanlike fashion, Team 5 stopped and helped build a fire until the chopper arrived. Team 69 partner Tom Collingwood tells the story with obvious disappointment.
pinned her. Pinned it, just to try to make it. As soon as he got through, she started to pitch, and he pinned it to try to save it. And he almost saved it. He was saving it. And this off camber just slid. And when he slid, you can see we did the back dive right into the water. So I was just like, wow. He's in the sled's in here. He was in the water, but he was able to get out. Basically, getting off the mainland to the coast is really hard here. The forest is very thick and dense, and it just gets worse and worse. So like pond to pond to pond, it's just trying to pick a trail and cut it through fine sugary snow. It's so hard. And when you've been running since say 8 o'clock at night to, you know, whatever time it is now, you're tired, you're thirsty, you're hungry, and you're not thinking straight. And every time you come down one of these trails, it's a gamble, and you have to assess the risk. You have to get out and walk it first. You do whatever you can, and it came to this point. It was just, how are we going to do it? There's 3 ways to get up onto this. Which one are we going to go? Of course, we're so tired. We just really want to get to a checkpoint. So you start to cloud your judgment with checkpoint as opposed to, okay, we're still not out of the woods yet. And not knowing what's ahead of you because you've never done the route, you don't know how much worse it's going to get before it gets better. The first thing that came to my mind was, oh no, you know, like I can't believe that's happening. And then once I knew he was okay, you know, I was like, that's it, all the hard work a year before the event, and then all the hard work from every day we've run and try to run clean as we can and try to keep a good placement is just over like that. So that's all part of the event, you know. It's, you got to take it day by day, you know, like anything can happen. And I mean, he was running with bent A-arms, bent steering controls, leaking shocks. I mean, it was just one thing after another, but every day there's always something. You wake up in the morning before you run, what's it going to be today?
Making up almost 6 hours, an incredible amount of time running through the night, it was Team Wolfpack number 38 who rolled into the village of Postville in top spot, the first of several stops on the north coast. A major move that the boys were quite surprised with.
2 days ago.
You missed Birchie Lake checkpoint.
Yeah, we were 80 kilometers down to Lassaloo and realized it. And then we got back to the highway, waited for our support crew and gas for 5 hours. We've been chasing ever since.
How did you make up so much time?
You tell me, buddy. I'll say it, we fluked out on this trail coming in. Our crew told us to stay right at every turn. We took every right there was coming in, and luckily for us it worked out.
Postville is considered an optional layover checkpoint in the group of stops from here to Nain. 16 hours total must be taken, but riders have the option as to where they stay as long as minimum 8 hours are in Nain. For Team 38, after a rocking fast night of riding, they wanted to keep it rolling, so they opted for a quick snack and fueled up the sleds, taking a few moments to speak further about their journey up the Northwest River.
Northwest River, the guy took us to the Groom Trail, and then we were 20-30 kilometers down the trail. I stopped, I said, we can get disqualified for this, I think. So we booted it back into town and hopped on the bay ice and shooted it up.
So once you're on the Groom Trail, you realize that it's not bad.
Yeah. So we did not take the Groom Trail. No.
Only 1 minute apart from each other, but almost 2 hours behind the leaders, Teams 00, 29, and 99 filled in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th spots, arriving into Postville. A couple hours later, Teams 4, 7, and 73 arrived. Many snowmobilers use trailers to haul their sleds around, but the riders out in the mountains, they prefer to use sled decks.
Well, first of all, they're much easier to maneuver. You can either have 1 or 2 sleds on the deck. And when you're going in tight roads, sometimes it's easier to not have a trailer to corner. You don't have to take your turns much wider. And especially for parking, when we go up the mountain roads to get to the nice parking lot areas to unload, sometimes you don't have enough room to turn around. So it's much more convenient to have a sled deck on the top of your truck. Because we tend to start driving up the mountain with our trucks as far as we can get. For example, in Quebec, we go up logging roads. So obviously there's not a lot of room to turn around. And even when you meet another truck or whatever, most of the time you have to pull into the snowbank. And out here, out west, it's the same thing. Most of the parking lots are up high. For example, in Whistler and Pemberton, you'll do about a mile and a half just to get to the parking lot before you even unload your sleds. And most of the times those roads are really bumpy. And when they're really snowed in, sometimes trailers won't even make it halfway up. And then backing out is a real issue if you have a trailer, for sure. Sleds nowadays are really light, so you can hardly tell or notice it when you're driving. Of course, it's a little more top heavy. For example, my truck's lifted, so that doesn't help the problem. But most of the time, you hardly feel the sleds are there. The weight gives you a lot more traction when you're going up steep slopes on icy hills or a lot of snow. So it actually helps out for traction a lot. It's really easy. Most of them store the ramp underneath the deck. So you just pull the ramp out, you hook it up, and you can have different, depending how high your truck is, you'll have different length ramps. You can have 8-foot, 10-foot, 12-foot ramps. And basically that just adjusts your angle to get onto the back of the truck. Obviously you want to have the longest ramp possible to make the angle much easier to load. Second, you kind of have to get a run at it just to get your track on the ramp. But once you're on it, most of the guys tend to keep on the throttle. I usually stop on the ramp just so I can set myself up, and I just slowly bring her up to make sure you don't put the skis through the back window. Despite the fact that there's a headache rack, there's a million videos on YouTube of guys not being able to load their sled on the decks. So it's usually guys who tend to go too fast or on a slippery slope and the ramp isn't really set up right. So it's just, you take your time, you do it right, and obviously safety first.
Two days before coming to BC, I was riding in minus 25-degree temperatures in northern Quebec. In those weather and riding conditions, my CKX suit was warm and comfortable. Here in the mountains, that suit worked well, but I also brought my Motorfist mountain gear. Dressing in light layers is key to backcountry riding, and proper inner layers with a proper shell is crucial for all-day powder riding. The Motorfist gear provided lightweight, a proper fit, along with breathability and ventilation.
I think the number one thing for us riding backcountry or mountains is to dress appropriately, and that's the hardest thing. Is most people tend to get chilly, or they get too warm because they're sweating because they're wearing their heavy clothing when they come from the east, or that's what they're used to riding in. Layering, definitely. Learning how to layer, that's your number one aspect of mountain riding. You want to be able to wick that moisture away as soon as you start sweating, because we're going to sweat. We all know we sweat when we ride out here. There's a lot of physical activity. So getting the right layers. Clothing has become so technical now in the industry that it's pretty easy. As long as you get to know what exactly to wear, you're going to be fine.
No matter your style of riding, layering is key to staying warm and comfortable. You might have the best jacket in the world, but if you combine it with a regular t-shirt, you're going to compromise your jacket's performance. This is a perfect example of a base layer. It retains warmth, wicks moisture away from your skin, also has an antibacterial material to keep you comfortable. The second layer is there to insulate you and keep you warm, while allowing ease of movement.
Long gone are the days of heavy suits that did not breathe nor repel moisture. Also gone are the wool sweaters and fluffy scarves. Today's sledder has many clothing options in brands and styles, but a key consideration should be the riding zone and the type of riding you do. A suit that works well in -30 lake riding does not lend itself to tight trail riding in warm weather, nor would it work well in backcountry riding. The outer and inner layers are key to your riding comfort. Underlayers keep you warm, but they should not make you sweat. Too many layers can also restrict your movement, especially in the backcountry. When riding in British Columbia, I tried my trail riding gear, and yes, it worked well. When I put my Motorfist gear on, which is designed for off-trail riding, I definitely noticed a difference. More flexibility, along with more ventilation, allowed me to ride actively with no limitations, and my body temperature never rose. When riding in the backcountry, you know either you or someone else is going to get stuck and there's going to be some heavy digging involved. Hence, you want to have layers that you can shed quickly and then put back on once that sled is out of the 5 to 8 feet of fluffy snow. Proper gear, along with proper layering for your type of riding and riding conditions, can make a world of difference.
STV is sponsored by Ultimax Belts, performance proven, performance driven. Triton Trailers, the difference is in the details. And by CKX, wear your passion.
On next week's show, I get out the touring gear and I head back to Ontario for some great trail riding. We will also get around to our talk with Yvonne Dumel and Cain's quest. Somebody wakes up on something that's definitely not a pillow. I like to hear from you and I like to read your comments, so email me, phil@snowmobilertv.com. Thanks for watching, and remember, check out all our videos online at snowmobilertv.com. We'll see you next week here on the snow.